Well, I got a phone call about an hour ago from Bill Campbell, and he said, Mark, I got the flu. We're going to have to call an audible. And I said, well, Bill, I don't know what we do. How do we replace you? And he said, next man up, you're up. And I said, well, I feel like Rudy subbing in for Joe Montana at Notre Dame. And he said, well, don't screw it up. Except he didn't say screw in that word. So I'm Mark Flynn, and I will try and step in for Bill. I'm thrilled today to both have Shellye Archambeau and Ramona Pierson here that are really dynamic CEOs leading very, very exciting companies. And I think their stories are both very personally interesting, and what they've managed to do and really drive change has been really exciting. So what I thought I would do is try to moderate as best I might here. But maybe we would just start by asking Shellye to sort of explain a little bit of your background, how you evolved into MetricStream, which is a really exciting company, and tell us a little bit about MetricStream.
Sure, thank you. Are we on?
You have to turn it. There's a button there.
Okay, am I on? All right, perfect. I've spent, my whole career actually in technology. Only came to the Valley about a dozen or so years ago, and ended up, I'm just shortening my whole story here, but ended up spending the first half of my career kind of working for big companies, general management, running multi-billion-dollar divisions. Decided I had enough big, let me come actually make an impact, and decided to get involved in growing companies, ultimately targeting to be a CEO. Just prior to MetricStream, I was the Chief Marketing Officer and EVP of Sales at LoudCloud Opsware, which is how I got to know Bill, and then was hired by Kleiner Perkins to be CEO of a very broken company. And when I say very broken, it had raised $100 million back in 1999-2000. The bubble burst, and when I got there, 2003 roughly, it had about $7 million left in the bank, burning about $1.2 million a quarter, and hadn't sold anything to anybody in a year, roughly. So it was very broken. And that company is now MetricStream. So it was a complete restart, took it from 50 people down to about 16, and now we have over 1,500 all over the world. And what we do is we provide governance, risk, and compliance solutions. And what that basically means is we help companies manage all kinds of risk, whether it's regulatory, whether it is driven by industry standards, or practices, et cetera. And that's in a broad set of segments. So of course, highly regulated, financial services, healthcare, pharma, but all the way through retail, hospitality. Today, everybody cares about risk. And frankly, the best thing that ever happened to us, because we started on this before anybody really cared much about risk, was 2008. The end of 2008, when the market crashed, financial crisis, everybody woke up and said, oh my God, we've got to figure out how to manage risk. And when they looked around, Gartner had just named a brand new category called GRC in the early part of 2008, and MetricStream was named a leader. And so our phones started ringing off the hook. And ever since then, we've been growing at a very steady pace, averaging 45% over the last 5-6 years, and doing very well. So that's a quick snapshot of my story.
Ramona, lead us off.
So, I thought I'd be in the Marine Corps for a very long time. I was in the Marine Corps, and my job was to reverse engineer where nuclear silos in Russia were, so that dates me, when they were our enemy the first time, and now again. But so I had a career change that happened unbeknownst to me. I got hit by a drunk driver, woke up 18 months later out of a coma, and it was quite a wake-up call. So I ended up trying to figure out what I was going to do next after I started going through rehabilitation and tried to become a doctor. Nobody wanted a blind physician, so I ended up getting into neurosciences. So apparently no one minds having a blind neuroscientist. So I was blind for 10 years and had a guide dog, and ended up building my career as a scientist. And then I wrote algorithms to be able to help us track best surgical pathways for removing shrapnel from the brain for the first Gulf War and then the second Gulf War, and building neuroassessments for, for soldiers. And then I got into learning and memory because we wanted to create better soldiers over time, and then realized that there was a lot of applicability in education. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to give those pills to children. So we decided that, I visited some schools to see how education was assessing kids and fell in love with education. I built my career in there, became a Gates Fellow, built a big data warehouse called The Source, then built a company called Synaptic Mash that personalized learning, sold that to Promethean, and then started Declara. And Declara essentially is, if I were pitching to VCs right now, I'd say, hey, we are able to accelerate innovation for fast-moving teams. And the way we do that is by building the machine learning and the NLP, or the intelligence, to make it easy to understand that surfaces content and experts so that companies can innovate and get to their ROI faster. So that's us in a nutshell.
And if anyone's really interested, President Obama asked Ramona and her team to present at the White House in August of this year, and he made a very interesting comment. There's a YouTube online video, but he said it's like the merging of Google and Facebook. As investors and board members at Declara, we like that analogy, so congratulations. But clearly, and let me ask Shellye, the notion, what we're talking about largely today is, in today's world, and Mark just gave a tremendous presentation of the complexity around media and the evolution of media, in some ways, getting your message to the customer has become so challenging, and separating, the signal from the noise. Tell us about MetricStream and selling largely to the enterprise. Is it changed in your career, and what do you have to do differently today?
Oh, it's changed significantly, and you're absolutely right. If you look how people are bombarded, I saw some statistics that said that in the course of basically a minute, 200 million emails get sent. 2.5 million Facebook updates happen. Over 250,000 tweets go out, and about 204,000 Instagram pictures get posted. So that's a minute. So we are totally bombarded with content, information, right? Things that are all out there. So what's changed in the enterprise, and how many of you are actually enterprise focused versus consumer? Just to get an idea. Okay. So from an enterprise standpoint, what we used to do, roll the clock back, was put all your plans in place and your marketing programs and your targeting to figure out how to go find the customer. Everything focused on finding your prospective customer and targeting that audience. Now, it's creating an environment where customers can actually find you. Because studies show that customers, before they even talk to a sales rep on the enterprise side, 60% of them already have their minds kind of made up. It doesn't mean they've decided they're going with you, but they've really got a firm view of what they think they want. So you have to change what you do to actually understand where do your customers spend time, and then make sure that you are there, which is a very different notion from what it was. So you do that. So how do you do that? One of the things we did, for instance, was to launch a website that we called complianceonline.com. And we did this early, back in 2005. And the notion being, let's create a place, a portal, where we pull together all the information around compliance, risk, et cetera. So we're really an aggregated portal. We optimize search for those arenas. So if you're searching for CFO Part 11, it's somebody in the pharmaceutical space that's looking for regulatory information and not a widget on a tire, right? That kind of thing. And then create community, et cetera. And what happened with that is it worked. We're with the #1 portal for GRC professionals out there. We get tens of thousands a month of professionals coming to that website for content, for things, because we make it just very easy. So now we know where they are, right? They can find us as an overall example. The other thing is you do your research to figure out where they are, and you put content and information out. So we've spent a lot of time creating content, not just on the website, because everything you want to feed back to the overall website, but actually even broader than that. making sure that whether it's the different associations, et cetera, it's no longer showing up for their, quote, events and hosting a booth, as much as it is getting their periodicals. We do a lot of article placement. Every executive in MetricStream just about does articles. We put placements all over the place. So it's creating an environment where they can actually find you.
Thanks. And Ramona, you've done both a freemium and an enterprise model. Tell us how you sort of evolve that strategy and what the challenges are.
Yeah, we started out with selling into ministries and governments, and that is a whole new challenge. And you're right, they come and find you, and we get calls from them all the time. And governments work on word of mouth, so going to events will not help in selling into governments. And then what we realized is we wanted to be able to sell into the enterprise space. And the enterprise looks to the government and goes, okay, so this is very interesting, but what have you done for us lately? So what we had to do was think about how do we get their attention, and what we've done is researched how enterprise are buying today. So today, the enterprise is not buying through the CIOs anymore as much as they used to. Now the millennials bring you in through your smartphone. And if you don't have a presence on the smartphone and you're not going in through the consumer, or what I call the prosumer, the professional consumer, it's very difficult to get into the company. So a company may actually buy through their traditional C-suite, but that doesn't mean that they're going to use you unless you've actually also come in through the prosumer space. So very much like Shellye has done, we've had to go out to where our customers are going to be. So the end users are researchers and professional workers, the global knowledge economy. So a lot of our users we get through LinkedIn, and they are bringing us into the enterprise space, and then we're getting calls from the CIOs and from the Gartners and others who want to bring us in to sell into the enterprise. So it's not as straightforward as it used to be, and having a product that just sells in one direction is not going to happen very easily unless you are already known by the end user.
If I can just add to that, the community piece is really important. Like on LinkedIn, we put out a group that's called RACE, which stands for it's for Risk, Audit, and Compliance Executives, right? But we create those kinds of things all over the place. Again, so people join, you put content, you seed, and it does a couple things. One, it helps them find you, but you gain so much information by understanding what are they talking about, what are the issues they're raising, all of those things, without having to go spend a whole lot of money to conduct market research, because you've now got this input coming. So highly encourage, look for how you create the overall communities. And one of the best ways to help seed that is turn your initial customers into heroes. One of the things we actually have a customer hero program. That's what it's called. And the whole focus is turning our customers into heroes. So if we can give them visibility, shine the light on them, they feel fantastic, right? Absolutely fantastic. And when they feel fantastic, they're happy to talk about you no matter what's going on, right? They're happy to talk about you and do things, et cetera. So we actually launched a GRC TV, and we take videos whenever we can. And a quick trick, one of the best ways to get customers to do things like videos and interviews is don't do it in their office. If you call them up while they're sitting in their office and ask them if they can do something, the answer is, oh, I got to check with legal, right? Because they're in the mindset of, oh, I'm in the company, I follow the company rules. You get them outside. When they come to events, we do some thought leadership events, et cetera. We bring them in, we let them speak, we make them feel great, and say, oh, by the way, would you be interviewed by this analyst? Or would you do, and you know what? They tend to say yes. They forget all about actually what requirements they may have. But it's worked fabulous for us. So I really encourage you, put the content out, turn your customers into heroes, because then they talk about it and they send it to their friends, and you know what? They're part of all these communities.
Yeah, in building on that, we've done the same thing, and it's interesting. It's almost like a flywheel. So what we started to do is we decided to help our customers, and we built robots for them. so that as they start building content and curating information, we auto-tweet their information back out. It starts to build the personal brand of those people. And what's interesting, a few of them, 4 of them, have stepped up and have started creating a Twitter conference just so that they can watch their content and conversations fly up into our platform. So then when their content's in our platform, it's getting auto-tweeted out and drives their conference. So what we're finding are our end users are best commercial for our product because they go out and they're bringing people in without us doing it so that it feels more native, more authentic than when we try to set that up and do it from an internal standpoint. And also we found a way of building some of the thought leaders that started using our platform for their own research, a lot of futurists. We said, hey, why not, we'll give you a channel and you can have unlimited use of our bots and other things. And now they're having the auto tweet, and every time somebody comes in to follow them, we auto-tweet out a thank you out into Twitter, and it's creating this flywheel of bringing people back into the platform. So it's very powerful, and now we have companies like Visa and other people asking us to do that for them. So in a weird way, we're building sort of another business. Yeah, it's weird.
Social media, it sounds like, has been a big part of the evolution. Shellye, any thoughts of how that's impacting your business? Are you finding your customers using this as a medium more often?
I find it not in the Twitter necessarily and Facebook side because I'm dealing with enterprise, but definitely on the professional networks. So like LinkedIn, et cetera, definitely using those kinds of, if you will, capabilities. Also, I'll call it the communities that we set up online through our compliance online, et cetera. They also use in terms of asking questions, sharing information, best practices, et cetera, out there in the community.
Ramona, as the world has evolved from on a platform sense, from really the desktop to the proliferation of mobile devices, how much consumption's happening today, and what would you think about in 3 or 4 years, the importance of mobile devices as the delivery vehicle?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it was something we had to evolve because we were selling originally into governments, and when you sell into governments, they're still on the BlackBerry for legal reasons, and so we were forced to try to figure out how to connect the web to their BlackBerry, which is a very difficult thing to do. And then we found out that people were illegally sneaking in their iPhones. So then we started to address their iPhone that way. And we had to be careful to make sure that their internal content didn't show up there. But so we had to play around with that. But now that we've moved more into this backdoor with the consumer piece, the prosumer, and the enterprise, we're driving more and more of our focus into the mobile space. So over the next 5 years, if you don't have a mobile-first strategy, you'll be caught behind, because I'm meeting people every day who say, I don't even use a computer anymore. So a lot of our thought leaders and our C-suite personnel don't use laptops anymore. I think Mark Pincus from Zynga ran his entire company from his phone. He never used a laptop. They never even gave him one. So more and more leaders are moving that way. So if you're in the enterprise space, being able to have that mobile-first strategy is going to be imperative for the business over 5 years.
Shellye, your thoughts on the mobile strategy? Has it been important as your product evolves?
Absolutely, and I completely agree. So even our solutions, again, these are fully baked, complex enterprise-level systems, but they're available via iPad, iPhone, et cetera. So yes, you can use them on your computer, but also use them wherever you are, and that's a game changer. If you don't have it, it makes it much more difficult in terms of to sell. The good news for us in our particular space, we were one of the first to actually go there, so that was very helpful for us.
Go ahead, James.
So just to kind of probe a bit on that, do you guys see mobile as a form of acquisition? Meaning
a
like,
form of customer acquisition.
meaning like, it's great to have a mobile solution because the execs that are running from meeting to meeting can look at their sales pipeline or whatever else is going on, but the vast majority of folks are sitting at their computer most of the day. And it's like, as you kind of think about acquisition through mobile, but then like flushing out the product and making it full featured, are you saying acquire with mobile, but then build full feature sets on both mobile and desktop, or desktop first and then mobile?
Really good question. We actually, in terms of build, our full capability on desktop, because even today, even though we have mobile, it is definitely an 80-20. 80% are still absolutely using the desktop, laptop, whatever they happen to have in the office, and 20% in terms of on mobile. I expect that to rise, but we are indeed providing full function, and then we provide it two ways. We do it native on mobile, but we also provide basically a rendering, the ability to use the full function on the mobile. It just doesn't take advantage of all the capabilities of mobile, so it's not as slick as native first, but it gives them that option. So we do both.
Yeah, what we did is we built out the web version because most people, like you said, are sitting there most of the day. But when you're a knowledge worker, you're going out, you're searching. When you're standing in line for tickets for a concert or whatever you're doing, people are working all the time. So we had to use responsive design so that the entire experience, pretty much the entire experience, happens on the mobile device. And then we have the native apps that do specific things. And, you can do more on a tablet than a small phone. And so there are more capabilities that you want to provide on a tablet, fewer on a smaller phone. But, we just had an experience in Australia where they're saying, look, we want the entire web version on a phone because, the millennials' eyes are better than our older engineers. So we want everything there. So we're thinking about the strategy of how do you do that? How do you give a full experience on a device? Luckily, the iPhone's getting bigger, but soon it'll be. But anyway, as the mobile phone gets a little bit bigger, it gives you that opportunity. But to be on everything, the responsive design gives you that capability so that you can catch up with your native tools.
Are you able to use sort of predictive analytics today in terms of anticipating what your customers really want from an engagement point of view? Are you able to use I hate the term big data, but it's really this analytical framework to really take this customer engagement to the next level? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, we use metrics in everything. So even watching when people, in our consumer product, people can tweet out, they can LinkedIn out, and they can do a lot of things. So we watch the metrics of things coming back in. Our entire platform is built around predictive analytics and transformative analytics. So we don't just anticipate what you need for your job today, but we anticipate what you need for your job tomorrow and who you need to be connected with. So we use predictive analytics throughout our entire platform to help the knowledge worker to be successful in everything that they do. But also in acquiring new people, we have to anticipate what the data is showing us. So we do leverage big data to understand the behavioral trajectories of people, both inside our platform and outside of our platform, to the extent that we've consumed most of the data in Twitter. Like we just suck it all in, run it, and we can see where the behavioral trajectories of knowledge workers within Twitter are moving.
We use it in two ways. So one, internally, probably the place that we use it the most is on the marketing side. And that's because I just told you, we put ourselves out there so that customers can indeed find us. So we get 5,000 to 7,000 leads a month that come from, that ether. Well, you're not going to go after each and every single one of those. So we have different filters that we put on it in terms of how much time they spent on different areas of the website. What industry, what solution areas, have they touched us in multiple places? So we have a whole screening to be able to then prioritize what we go after to actually convert those into true opportunities. So that's one. And then we also use it to help our customers, so it's back. We offer, we talked about risk management. One of the areas that we also offer, and we're new into this area, but we're right now the only ones within the big GRC firms that are doing this, is we actually help them with what we're calling kind of the whole social media compliance. So we can actually pull in all the different things that are happening around their name, their brand, and or key areas that are important to them, and then put that together, analyze it, and then give it back to them to show them trends. And that's also a way in terms of using big data. You'd be surprised what you can, I don't care what your business is, if you look at it from a big data standpoint and all the data that you actually have, there are ways to turn that into value back out to the marketplace. So sometimes it's just a hidden or inherent kind of capability that people have and don't realize it. It's almost like what your customers are asking you for, right, in terms of using into a whole new business. Most of us have that. It's just a matter of how we look at our business in a different way to see if we can figure out what are the data elements that can actually be valuable back out to our customers.
And it's interesting because not only is it creating new businesses within existing businesses, but the big data analytics are also going to impact next generation jobs. We aren't going to need to hire certain areas in your companies anymore because the big data gives you insights of things that you used to have to hire a lot of data analysts to do. So it's interesting. Our big data scientists had, helped us create ways to reduce the need for them.
The goal today is really to get an exchange of ideas, and so let's open it up for any questions people have to either Shellye or Ramona. Great. Well, I'm going to ask Shellye one if nobody, go ahead, Diane.
Shellye, growing from 16 people to 1,500 over a relatively short period of time had to have a lot of challenges in terms of keeping your customers satisfied. I'm just wondering if you can comment on some things you learned along the way and maybe some mistakes you might have made.
Absolutely. Gosh, where to start? So lots of learnings as well as mistakes, right, in doing that. So one, as you're growing that quickly, one of the biggest challenges you have is actually how to bring people on board and make them productive and understand how to work within your company. And it sounds so simple, but when you're actually dealing with so many, that's actually not a simple thing. And you're trying to do it in terms of each group, et cetera. So we used to have each organization, whether it was engineering, marketing, et cetera, as they were hiring, bringing people in, they had their own way of doing the onboarding process. We scrapped that. We made one onboarding process that then fed in to the different groups because some did it very well and some were just terrible. And you could tell because we actually went through a period, and I'm not proud of it, where we would hire people and in less than a year, people would leave. And you say, well, what's that all about? You spend all this time and effort to actually hire, find the skills, et cetera, and then in less than 5 months or 6 months, they're leaving. And when you go and find out, the reason was they kind of got there and they got lost in the mass. It was they didn't have clear objectives on what they needed to do, right? They didn't clearly understand how to get things done. It was that kind of thing. So we had to put some processes in place, which when you're small, you don't think about doing or prioritizing to indeed handle that. So that would be a key learning, is making sure that you really understand how you're onboarding, how you're bringing people in, and you check and make sure within 30 days they ought to know what they're responsible for, what the key things are that they need to deliver or do in the next month, quarter, year. We have what we call a 3-1-1 now. Everybody has to understand their 3-1-1. And that's really helped so that the whole process now is much better. But that would be one example.
Go ahead, James.
That is such a good question. We rolled out mobile in Genentech. So Genentech only wanted mobile. They didn't want desktop. And they kept expecting a lot more out of a small device, but no one could really get, to their molecular IP store very well. So, we had to really help them think through this. Like, some of the companies are trying to get 5 years from now without going through the steps of it. So with the bigger tablets, we thought, look, you can do just about almost the same things that you can do on the web device. So let's start with that. And then on the mobile device, we started out just for consuming content so that the managers and leaders are able to get their curated content and see what their teams are doing and some data. And then what we got feedback that people wanted to be able to create groups and communicate with their mobile device. So that was the next on the trajectory. I'm hesitant to put all features on a small mobile phone because I think that the user experience gets degraded when you do that.
Would you say like most of your signups, as it bottoms up, comes from the web and then it converts mobile, or
I think that from Twitter and from other things, people come in through the phone. When people more of your C-level suite, they're using the tablet. And then when people are at work, like I can see all the data. On the weekends, people are using the mobile, and at work, during the work hours, they're using the web.
Any other questions? That'd be great. Well, I want to thank Shellye and Ramona, and we really appreciate your comments. And they'll be around for a little bit if anyone wanted to meet with them individually. Thank you again.